So much that we really don't know what to do about it. People are asking me, please, 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 Mr. President, we're winning too much. We can't take it anymore. We're not used to winning in our country. Until you came along, we're just always losing, but now we're winning too much. And I say, no, 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 you're going to win again. You're going to win big. You're going to win bigger than ever. And to prove that point, here with us tonight is a group of winners who just made the entire nation proud. The men's gold medal Olympic hockey team. Come on in.
Look, I've been watching State of the Union addresses for a long time. I've delivered 4 of them myself, and I've sat in that chamber more times than I can count. And I want to tell you something. What happened last night on February 24th, 2026, in that House chamber, it wasn't just a speech. Something shifted. And I don't think enough people are talking about what it actually means. See, most folks woke up this morning, they saw the headlines. Longest State of the Union ever, 108 minutes. Hockey players got medals, Democrats got yelled at, and they moved on with their day. I understand that. People are busy. They're worried about groceries and rent and whether their kids are going to be okay. I get it. But here's the honest truth. The most important things that happened in that speech last night weren't the parts that made the news. They weren't the standing ovations or the shouting matches. They were the quieter moments, the ones that slipped right past most people. A president standing in front of Supreme Court justices he publicly humiliated just 4 days earlier and calling their ruling unfortunate. A claim with zero evidence that the other party can only get elected by cheating. A case being built piece by piece for what could become another military conflict in the Middle East. And we'll come back to all of that in a moment. What I want you to understand right now is this. The State of the Union is not supposed to be entertainment. It is supposed to be a president's honest accounting to the people who sent him there. And when that accounting stops being honest, when it becomes a performance designed to divide rather than inform, then something fundamental in our democracy starts to break down. Not with a bang, quietly, gradually, in ways that most people don't notice until it's too late. And that's what I'm worried about today. Not about one speech, about what comes after it. Now, before we get into what he said and what he didn't say, you have to understand the moment this speech was delivered into, because context is everything. It always is. Let me tell you something. When I gave my State of the Union in January 1998, I was in the middle of the hardest stretch of my presidency. Everybody knows that. But I walked into that chamber and I talked about policy. I talked about balancing the budget. I talked about what we were going to do for working families, because that's what the American people deserved, substance, not spectacle. Now look at where President Trump stood last night. His approval ratings are scraping historic lows. Only 39% of Americans approve of his handling of the economy, and that's the issue people care about most. A partial government shutdown is ongoing right now because Democrats in Congress refuse to fund the Department of Homeland Security after federal agents killed 2 American citizens in Minneapolis back in January, Renee Good and Alex Priddy. Those are real names, real people. And the president didn't mention them once. 4 days before this speech, the Supreme Court struck down his signature global tariffs in a 6-3 ruling. His own appointees voted against him. He called it an embarrassment to their families. Meanwhile, 2 aircraft carrier groups are deployed toward Iran. Tensions are rising, and the 2026 midterm elections are less than 9 months away, with Republicans facing serious headwinds. We've got to remember that's the landscape. That's what a president is supposed to address when he walks into that chamber. The real State of the Union, the difficult truths, not just the comfortable ones. And this is where things start to get complicated. Because instead of meeting this moment with honesty and accountability, what we got was 108 minutes of a president who chose to double down on everything that put him in this position in the first place. And the consequences of that choice, well, those are going to unfold whether we're paying attention or not. All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about what was actually said in that chamber. And just as importantly, what wasn't. President Trump stood up there and declared, we're living in a golden age. He said the roaring economy is roaring like never before. Now look, I love optimism. I built my whole presidency on it. But optimism has to be rooted in something real. And when 65% of Americans disapprove of your handling of inflation, you can't just tell them the good times are here and expect them to believe it. He claimed he inherited inflation at record levels. That's just not true. When he took office in January 2025, annualized inflation was at 3%, well off any record. He said tariffs are paid by foreign countries. Every serious economic study says that's wrong. American consumers and businesses bear those costs.